Wow, there's a lot going on. And so with that, what I would like to do is introduce Cynthia. I think, well, I'll let Cynthia introduce herself. What I will say before I allow her to take the microphone is that it has been just an extraordinary pleasure to work with Cynthia. She is delightful in so many ways, and she's got this extremely compelling story to tell. And I hope you at least introduce us to your story today, Cynthia. Um, that is at all times both extraordinarily engaging and inspiring and powerful in so many ways. And I'm very proud of her because she has taken her story and crafted it in such a way that for those people who she has shown her book to, the reviews have been superlative in every sense. There's even a producer at ABC who is very interested in taking this on and perhaps working with a screenwriter to produce something for ABC. So this is amazing and well deserved. She did just an incredible job. And more than that, I mean, that's incredible. That's awesome. But more than that, it has been just such a pleasure to work with Cynthia. And one of the things that I admire so much about her is that she was open to suggestions that I had regarding how to construct paragraphs and how to phrase things and word choice and things like that. That she accepted them, embraced them, and incorporated them in her book. And I think the book is amazing. It's engaging, it's inspiring, and I've said all those words before, but she did just an incredible job. And the best thing about it is that her book is in her words. She's not telling her story using how I'm telling her to say it. She's using her own words, and I just helped craft it a little bit, but it's all her, and it's beautiful. So Cynthia, with that, if you could please introduce yourself, tell us what you're writing about, and tell us whatever else you would like to talk about.
Well, it's a pleasure meeting all of you. And I want to thank Carmen first and foremost because I met her at a garden party. I saw her at a garden party and I hadn't seen her in years. And I saw Carmen and I wanted to talk to her, but she was just talking to everybody under the sun. And when we did connect, I did ask, what are you doing? She said, I'm working on a book. I said, wow, that's interesting. I'm working on a book as well. And she told me about Bruce and this retreat. So I attended this retreat about a year ago, and that is where my journey began. So I'm writing a book. It's entitled A Marriage Made in Heaven, Love, Tragedy, Faith, and Recovery. So about 25 years ago, I became a widow. I had 4 children, and my husband was a transplant surgeon at the time. He was from Nigeria, and he found out his dad needed a kidney transplant, but they don't have transplants in Nigeria. So he decided his family, used all their resources to send him to the United States to become this amazing physician. He decided to collect all of the equipment he would need to operate on his dad and go back to Nigeria to save his dad's life. So the day before he was supposed to come home, my mother gets a phone call indicating he died in a car accident. So he passes away. It's just traumatizing. And he was so amazing. Not only was he an amazing husband, he was an amazing friend. He was an amazing physician. He was just a phenomenal person. And the day after he died, when I woke up, I couldn't believe the world continued to go on as usual. My thought is like, wait a minute. This amazing man is gone. And you mean people are going to work, people are laughing. I just could not comprehend it. So it was at that time that I decided I am going to write a book one day as a tribute to Dr. Ferdinand Ukah so that the world will know who he is or who he was because he was just gone too soon. So I go on with my life. I'm told he dies in a car accident. Months later, I find out that's not true. And it turns out he was murdered. I find out he's murdered. But the essence of this book, it's about faith and how I relied on God 100% to get me through this. My family and my friends here in Iowa City, you know, how they helped me and how God showed me in so many ways that he was going to protect me and that he was going to get me through this. I had my personal goodbyes from Ferdinand. The people we met when I moved to Alabama, it was a mortician, a social worker, and someone with insurance. Everybody I needed from the time my husband died until today, people just showed up. And I don't think they just showed up, you know, so it's a book about faith, love. My mantra is love never dies. We spent 18 amazing years together. I used all of the lessons that I learned from him, and I still use them today. So it's called The Marriage Made in Heaven because I did not cry once. Until this day, I've never cried because I feel like I'm still married to him. This writing process has been the most therapeutic experience that I have ever had because, like you, Doris, I was on autopilot. I did not know any facts about my husband's death. I had 4 young kids. My goal was to keep his memory alive, so I talked about him in the present all the time. So in my world, he was always there. My kids always had a father. When I started writing, Bruce would say, Cynthia, you're a great writer, but there's no feeling. There's no expression. And at that point, I didn't have it. I didn't have it to give. When he died, my heart died. I'm a nice person. I was able to function, but I wasn't vulnerable. I wasn't able to feel. So Bruce was very gentle. He was understanding. You know, he would push me gently. He would ask questions, and I feel like I grew as a person. I feel like I took a master class in writing, you know, because now I feel confident, you know, about my writing. It opened up dialogue with my family, with my kids, and I feel like I've healed. And because of this book, I found out exactly what happened to my husband. I wasn't willing to find out the circumstances in terms of what really happened. But because of this process, I was able to look at court documents. I was able to call my husband's family, and I was able to get closure for the first time ever. So Bruce, I worked with Bruce every single Tuesday from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, and it was always the highlight of my week. And I was sold on Bruce when we had an opportunity to give him a sample of our writing the first time I was at the retreat. And of course, I felt intimidated. I did not feel as though I was a writer. I feel like I'm a writer now, you know, and you're afraid of someone looking at your writing and critiquing it. But whenever I get my edits, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like amazing. And what he would do, he didn't change my voice. He would just rearrange paragraphs, ask questions, you know, encourage me to just explore more. He helped with the direction of my book because he didn't know my story, but he was curious. So he was able to elicit a lot of information from me. So this has been an opportunity of a lifetime. Working with him once a week, it was a joy. Not once did I think, oh my gosh, I have to get this done. And oh, it's time for Bruce. It was a celebration and a joy. So I highly encourage it. I cannot believe that I have a book that's ready to be formatted. It's something that I am extremely, extremely proud of. You know, I'm not on a timeline. I took my time. There's no date. You know, people are like, when is the book going to be ready? When are you doing this? And I'm just like, you know, I'm just a go with the flow kind of person. You just let the writing take you where it takes you. Bruce guided me all the way. And I have a book that's about to be published, probably in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Do you have a title?
I do. It's called A Marriage Made in Heaven.
Oh, right.
Love, Tragedy, Faith, and Recovery.
So we can look for it on Amazon in a couple of weeks?
I hope so. Bruce knows the timeline. I just go step by step. So
It'll
Bruce would
probably
know
be closer to a month or more before it's actually available on Amazon. We're at the and I'll tell you all about this at the appropriate time, but there's steps to go through. She just got done with the copy editing. I have a gentleman who I work with who's an independent contractor who does copy editing. And the most important thing for the people who I work with are that they do an excellent job. That's the most important thing. But I selected this gentleman specifically because not only does he do an excellent job, but he also is much less expensive than other contractors or other companies in providing the service, because he and I are working together, and he knows that the authors that I send him, the books that I send him, are going to be in really good shape by the time they get to him. And so he doesn't need to spend nearly as much time as he would if it were from another author or another publisher who hadn't provided as much detailed feedback and done a lot of the copy editing themselves. So it's reasonably priced, and it's and he does a superb job. I think, Cynthia, you like the job he did, right? This is Bill Worth.
Oh, he did an amazing job. And he did not, I assumed that he would like make so many changes and edits, but Bruce did do such an outstanding job. You know, the edits that he made, and it's not like you have to accept all of them, you know, they were, you know, very important and valuable. The other thing I wanted to say is this is like one-stop shopping. You get your book cover, you get the copywriting, you get everything in different stages. So it's not like you have to go someplace else to get, you know, the cover, and you have to go someplace else for the formatting. Bruce has everything ready to go step by step, and it is just seamless.
Even the cover, I'm impressed.
Yes, and with the cover,
So there's a woman I work with in the United Kingdom. The copy editor is in Hawaii. He lives in Maui. He's a retired Unity Church minister, and the woman I work with in the UK is a graphic designer who does book covers.
Wow,
it's amazing.
She is the nicest person you'll ever meet, very accommodating, and she takes specific feedback from the individual authors to create a cover that they adore. And every cover that has come to her, every author I've sent her way has been really pleased with what she comes up with. And there's a back and forth, because
you showed us the covers of 2 books. One with a person standing there with a plane right over their head.
Right.
Did she do those?
She did those 2, yes.
Wow.
She did my cover as well. That's how I got to.
Right. Yours I've seen, and then those 2. And so she obviously is able to juggle the needs of the various authors. And that's
right.
Really...
And widely different topics on the book. You know, she gets to know my Air Force buddies because that's part of the group that I've done it. And she has no background in any of that, of course, but she designed a beautiful cover for Cynthia.
And
go ahead.
And she's extremely flexible. So I'm not artistic at all. I don't have an artistic bone in my body. So I had a vision for the book, and she did exactly what I did ask. But when I looked at it, I'm like, this is not really what I want. So I had to sit with it. And then I thought about it. And then I came up with another concept. No problem, no issue. You know, she's so accommodating, and she just wants to make sure you have a cover that you're pleased with. And that is really neat. She is amazing.
And
so Bruce
Sherry
had told
in the UK. So anyway, go ahead.
Bruce had told me about the copy editor and you know, getting it all formatted for digital copies. But you had mentioned about the covers, and those are the kind of things that you can get all caught up with. I don't have a good title, and that keeps you from even starting the book. But it sounds like there's help in all those areas. And after listening to both Cynthia and Doris and how they've been able to come off autopilot and dig into things they really didn't address at any other point. I really think you should market this as cheaper than therapy.
I know.
Good point.
Obviously
Good point.
accomplishing many of the same things for your authors. So there you go, a new tagline.
Absolutely.
Very good. So just to finish up with your question, Suzanne, about how long it will take for Cynthia. Right now, we're all done with the copy editing. She has a cover. The next step, and it's not the final step. The final step is putting it on Amazon and Ingram Spark and what have you. But this next step is format editing, because her book needs to be formatted into an ebook version and a paperback version and a hardcover version, and they need to be married up with covers and what have you. So that formatting process is very particular. It's very specific, the requirements. And I, again, there's an independent contractor I work with. It's actually a small company called Jet Launch. They're based in Arizona. And I've worked with them. They give a very good price, because what they typically offer is full service format editing for about 2 or 3 times what they're charging us. And I have talked to them because I have sent them authors in the past. They give me this very reduced publisher price. They look at me as a publisher. And because of that, they only offer just the specific services that we need to get her book formatted so that it can be loaded up onto these sites. And they do a fabulous job, and they're very flexible as well. They do a great job. They have these different formats, templates that they use for chapter titles and table of contents and what have you, that are really professional looking, and they're not, it's not just a typed manuscript. It looks like something you'll be proud just from a visual perspective. And that's the whole goal. You want a book that you can be very proud of, and it's on all levels, most especially the writing, but also the cover, the typeset and formatting, the visual aspects of the book are all just superb. So it'll be a good month, I think, but not much after that. I think we'll be able to move it. And then the last step after it gets formatted and is that I sit down with the author and we block a whole afternoon, because it takes that time, and we load it all up onto Amazon and Ingram Spark and make sure that that's all set up, and the author page on Amazon and things of that nature, so that by the time we leave that meeting, it's ready to, the author, in this case Cynthia, of course, is ready to order proof copies so that she can look at it. So it goes from not being on either of these sites, but to being there, price is set, it's ready to go. It just requires approval, and then Cynthia would order some proofs to be sent to her so she can look at it and make sure that it looks exactly like she wants it. Kind of a last check before it goes live, and then press a button and it's live and it's available for sale. So
unbelievable.
So that's that whole process, and it's exciting. It's exciting when it comes together. I'm working with, I talked about David Dale previously, and he has actually loaded his onto Amazon. There were a couple issues, and he took care of the final issues, and he loaded it onto Amazon, and it became an Amazon #1 bestseller in its category within a couple of days of being launched. And I think part of that is that he did a lot of advertising on Facebook sites that he knows, but it's a very good book. It's an excellent book about an Air Force pilot's journey. And then David Dimmick, I think a lot of you, Carmen, he may have been at our retreat with you, or he might have been before that. Kevin, I know, knows him. He's CEO of a marketing company in Silicon Valley during the .com boom, and he and his wife, who were the co-owners of the company, decided to buy a yacht, a 100-foot yacht, and make it their offices in Silicon Valley. So that's where they worked out of for several years, very successful. But they also took the boat out, and they found out that owning a yacht is far, far more than just buying the yacht. And lots of adventures, including rudders going out in the middle of the Pacific and all sorts of stuff. So it's a fun book. And that one, I'm working on his final loading up this week, and it'll be out too. So it's a wide variety of topics for each of these different people. So it's all of your topics fall well within the realm of being able to produce something really special, and that's the goal. So, what other questions do you have for Cynthia or Carmen?
I'm just curious. I mean, getting down to basics, is it a real expensive process to publish your own book? You know, are you talking tens of thousands, or are you
No.
talking no?
No.
Okay.
So here's I'm gonna, Cynthia, if it's okay, I'm gonna tell you what the expenses were associated with Cynthia's.
Oh, that's fine.
It is the whole coaching process. It was about a year, and including the retreat, so that was close to 3,000 total from beginning to end for all the coaching I've been providing and the retreat and all that stuff. The copy editing was 900.
Oh.
Is that right? About 900?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. And then the format editing is another 900.
Oh,
that's-
okay.
That's 3,900, 900. And then what you kind of did it independently with Sherry as far as the cover.
Oh, that was like 350 or something. But I also had the Facebook. I had announcements. I had a trailer. So I had it was a package deal for the book cover.
So 350. So total is a little over $4,000.
Oh my God, that's
So
I
I
know.
will also tell you specifically that when I did research on this, if you were to try to find these services independently or go with a publisher that has this type of package, then it would be roughly $15,000 to $20,000. So
wow.
it is much larger, and I don't know that you'd get the personal services, quite frankly,
Right.
from someone
Right.
like that. So I know that the content editing alone, which is what I do, the type of editing I do is called content editing. And the content editing alone, the range is typically $8,000 to $25,000, depending on the experience level and what have you. So my $3,000 is a fraction of that. And I've kept my prices purposely low simply because I want people to, I want it to be affordable. So.
Yeah, I mean, you're way undercharging, first of all.
I've been told.
But second of all, I mainly wondered about not the part you do, because I know what those and that's so worth what your costs are. I was just thinking outside of that because I had no idea. And then Cynthia, are you going to do like any book signings like at Prairie Lights or?
I would love to. Their calendar is kind of full, but my dream, once I get the book, in their hands, I would have to get the book in their hands. But that is what I would love to do. And Prairie Lights, it's an Iowa book. Prairie Lights is in there. It's all Iowa. So yeah. I would love
Well,
to
the
do that.
Writers Workshop, everybody, if you haven't ever heard of that, look it up in Iowa City at University of Iowa, where we live. It's writing mecca, a world mecca of writers.
It is. So once I get like a date and a timeline, I will definitely
do
something like that.
That's so exciting. Oh
Absolutely exciting. So yeah, once just a second.
And did the person you said you had Facebook and a trailer and all that, is that the person you worked with? She helped you with all that?
This is Bruce's person, Sherry. Mm-hmm.
Sherry, okay. The United Kingdom person.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she helped with all that. Okay.
All of it. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, it's so seamless. And it's just like
Congratulations.
one step after the next. Like I said, I didn't know how much time after formatting. I'm just going with the flow,
Mhm,
because Bruce
mhm.
has everything under control, So
Unbelievable.
I
Yeah.
don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, and that's the goal. That's the goal.
Hmm.
Is it's not just to publish a book, because we can find people who will publish whatever we send them to publish, and it'll cost a fair amount, but uh, they will publish it. You can send them a draft and they'll say, okay, I'll publish it, and it'll be published, and it may even look fairly good. But we want something that is a book we can be proud to give our family, proud to
Hmm.
give friends, and my book. I'll tell you, excuse me, and Cynthia, you'll find this as well. That with my book, I found people reaching out to me, thanking me for my book, and I've never even met them. Old Air Force guys, old military guys saying this was so great, not just because of the military aspects. I mean, they enjoyed that, of course. That's probably what drew them to the book to begin with, but they liked how I was vulnerable in my book, and I talked about things that painful, traumatic things that I grew up with or experienced as a young adult, and how I dealt with them, and they resonated with all of that,
Hmm.
and they appreciated that I was able to talk about it because it helped them explore their own lives. So you'll find that. And that's such a wonderful feeling to know that I'm helping people who I have never even met.
Hmm.
And it's great to show it to family. I mean, this has been a real treat, I have to say. And something else, Cynthia, you brought up a really good point, or at least you made me think about a really good point here, in that there's often a concern about what family members will think or what friends will think when we write a book, and these books are personal. And so we will bring up family members and friends. Of course we do, because they're important parts of our lives. And I help with that too. There's a way to write about events and people in our lives, even painful events, and people that may not be perfect in our lives. And there's a way to write about it that is emotionally true, emotionally accurate. So we're not trying to cover up any emotions that the author experiences. It's emotionally accurate, emotionally true, but it also can be a little bit more of an objective, subjective perspective. So we're being completely true to ourselves, completely true to the emotions we feel, without being hurtful as we describe
Hmm.
these things. And that really helps. That helps us as authors be comfortable putting that out there. And it also helps in that the people who read about themselves in our books, or who know the people that we've written about, will also accept it more readily if it's written in a kind of a sensitive manner, in something that's empathetic to where these
Yes.
people are. And my example, and I've told you all about this, I grew up with an alcoholic mother, and I describing those experiences, obviously they were very painful, and I do describe that, and I described the pain that I experienced. But I also recognized the many good things about my mother as well, and how she had difficulty with this. And I felt I did a good job, and I was concerned about how my brothers and sister would react to this, and people who knew my parents. And with one odd exception, it's all been very positive. And the important people in my life all were supportive. So it worked out really well in that regard. So, and Cynthia, I know Cynthia, as we were talking about her book, especially as we got near the end, I think there was some reluctance on the part of your children to begin with, her adult children, to begin with, as far as, gee, I don't know if I want you writing about this. How's it going to come out? And based on latest inputs, they've had their inputs, and you've been sensitive to their inputs, and we've adjusted what we've said based on their feedback. And what I heard from you, at least the last time we talked, was that they were all okay with it, and they were actually pleasantly surprised at how well it has turned out. So,
And that was a surprise. So, and it was great. And Bruce was great too. You know, he would say, well, if you're not sure if your children would approve, why don't you let them look at their chapter and let them decide what's appropriate and what's not? You know, so that was really neat. And there were some very interesting changes, even talking about the person that actually murdered my husband. I'm like, do I really want to put his name out there? You know, but he committed the crime. You know what I'm saying? So there are often times when I really wasn't sure, but the truth needs to come out. And Bruce was just really great in terms of, he was a great listener. He was sensitive, he was practical, and a wonderful guide through the process. You know, not pushing me one way or another, but just allowing me to think it through and to make, you know, great decisions regarding the book.
well, thank you, Cynthia. Any other questions, especially Suzanne and Doris? Any other questions that you guys might want to ask Cynthia?
Yeah, I want to ask you guys, I'm not on video because my grandson's here and he's being a wild boy right now. So I want to ask about the writing process and how many hours did you commit to writing? Is it per day or maybe every other day? Could you talk about that?
Sure.
When you're writing about something traumatic and, you know, wanting to just know how that process all works.
Okay, so basically what I did, you know, I did not know really what direction I wanted to go in. So I just wrote about experiences. So when I met with Bruce, he's like, okay, so what do you want to start with first? So I'm like, okay, I want to start backward myself, right? So I started with the day I found out he passed away.
Just a minute.
And then he would get a chapter, he'd edit it. And once he would edit it on like a Tuesday, I would be so excited with the edits. I would just get to work probably like that day. So it's not like I wrote every day. I didn't do that, you know, because I had to think about his edits. Usually during the weekend, I would respond. He would always provide notes. The other beautiful thing is he taped every single session. So everything we discussed, any comments that he made, if it wasn't written down, it was, you know, I had it on tape. So I was able to just go through the tape during the weekend, and I was able to revise it with no problem because everything was right there. So that was a huge advantage. The other thing is, I thought that I was writing a tribute and a memoir to my husband. I did almost hear once because Bruce would say to me, maybe after 2 or 3 months, he'd say, Cynthia, I know you think you're writing about your husband, but you're really not. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm writing about him. It's a tribute to him. And then he started to get me warmed up to the idea that the readers have to know who I am in order for me, because I'm writing about my husband, but they also need to know who I am. So I'm like, I don't want to write about myself. You know, I'm a private person. This is all about him. So the whole story, it evolves. You know, what you think you're writing about, it may turn out to be something totally different. When it came to traumatic events, I had to sit with it myself. And I had discussions with Bruce, and I tell him my ambivalence. Well, I don't think I want to do this, or I don't think this is a good idea. For example, one chapter was like Ferdinand is murdered. I could barely come to grips with the fact that my husband is murdered. I'm like, I don't want people to think my husband was murdered. But it took like a month and a half for me to think it through. And I'm like, you know what? It's the truth. You know, so it just takes time. It takes understanding. It takes sitting with your writing, sitting with yourself, you know, and you will know what makes you feel comfortable. You'll write what makes you feel comfortable. What doesn't make you feel comfortable, you know, you don't have to write, and you can change it anytime. There's so many chapters I've gone back and I'm like, oh no, that's not what I meant. You know, so Bruce will guide you through it, especially when it comes to very sensitive, challenging, you know, topics. And it just gives you an opportunity to sit with yourself, I'll say, because that's something I did not do at all.
I like that because although I'm thinking I'm writing a memoir, I can relate to what your statement. I think I'm writing a memoir, but as I was telling Bruce this weekend, it was poetry writing.
Hmm.
And so stories, I think at this point, because things have been suppressed for so long, they're just coming out the way they are coming out. And so I'm not trying to think, oh, how is this going to be formatted? That's what Bruce told us, like, just write, get in the creative zone. But I like the idea that you're saying that you can always edit later and you have time to process painful things and come back. And the recording, I think, is also pivotal because that helps you, reflect, right? So
Hmm.
you just need time to just really tap into your emotions to be able to release the things that you're trying to say. So I like all of what you just said right now.
Hmm. Yeah, I didn't give myself a timeline or anything, but like I said, I was so excited. You would think I love chocolate more than anything. So whenever I get my edits, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And all he did was like rearrange something. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like, whenever you like your own story, I read it like, what, 10 times front to back. And every time I read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so good. So that's a pretty good feeling. And just sit with it. Sit with it. It's your story. It's you. It's all about you. And Bruce allows you to be yourself. He allows you to use your own voice. He learned a lot about me. I call him Uncle Bruce. Not too many people know that, but I mean, I love him. He has been so amazing, So yeah, it'll be a great experience. And to me, it ended up being a gift for myself. I thought I was providing my kids with a gift by, helping them to remember their dad. But basically, this ended up being a gift for me. Just being able to share and feel and reflect and understand what I went through because I had no idea.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure. I'm excited for your journey.
Thank you, Bruce. Just I don't know, I came on a little bit late, but the course amount, is there a time frame? I thought you said there wasn't, but I wanted to confirm, like, if you sign up, is there a time frame? Like,
So what I'll do after this meeting, I'm recording this now. You probably got a notice that this is being recorded when you came on, but at the early part of this recording, I talked about kind of the timeline and the next steps. And the short answer to your question is that we do have a post-retreat meeting scheduled, and it's going to be, for our time, Pacific Coast, it's going to be 1:00 in 1 week. So this Sunday coming up, 1:00, and it'll be recorded if you can't make it, but that's kind of what we all agreed on in terms of time that were available and what have you. So it's a 90-minute meeting starting at 1:00 on Sunday coming up. And I will also be sending out a link to Calendly, which is my scheduling application. And that's where you'll sign up for a 1-hour one-on-one coaching session for me, if that's included with the retreat as well. And so I would encourage you to go ahead and sign up for it, a couple of weeks out, 3 weeks out. That's perfectly fine. There's no real time limit on that. What I found, though, is that if people don't jump on this fairly quickly, then they kick the can down the road and they never sign up. A significant number of people who come to the retreat never ever do the one-on-one coaching because they've postponed it, and then I think that they're kind of embarrassed to admit that they've postponed it, so they never do. And it's still open. And I even send them emails saying, come on, I'm still here and I would love to hear from you. And they just don't. So when you get these emails from me, both the invite to the post-retreat meeting, which that'll be obvious, it's an invite to a post-retreat meeting. That one you just need to attend or look at it afterwards. But then a second email will be about the Calendly invite, or second part of the email will be about the Calendly invite. And I would encourage you to go ahead and set up a time that works for you. And if you need to postpone it to later, we can do that, but make a commitment to yourself at least to start the process. And don't plan on, well, I'll get to it when I have time, you know, and I understand that we're all busy. But what happens more often than not, far more often than not, is that if people don't schedule fairly soon after the retreat, then they just end up not scheduling at all and they let it go. So that's the schedule. And then I can talk to you more in depth and in more specifics about what this all involves. Does that make sense, Doris? Her picture is
She had
still
to help
there.
her
She's probably
grandson,
dealing
yeah.
with her grandchildren.
Yes.
So, all good. Suzanne, did you have another question?
That does make,
Um,
sorry, I was
I
talking.
might have.
I'm sorry, Bruce. I did understand you and I did hear you, and it does make sense. I was saying that I have a church event next Sunday, so I can't attend at 1. But you said you're recording it and I would be able to watch it. You'll send it out?
I will absolutely do that. So I will send you that, and I will also send you the Calendly link. And the Calendly link obviously is very personalized. So if you want to take a look at that and set up a time, and like I said, it can be a couple of weeks from now, whenever's convenient for you. I wouldn't make it too soon because you're kind of recovering from the weekend and everything. But
Okay. That sounds good. I can do that.
2 or 3 weeks from now, make a Calendly appointment and then work towards putting something together so that you can provide me with a sample of your writing. And I'll be talking about that at the post-retreat meeting as well. All right. Suzanne, do you have something?
No, just that I have a much better appreciation for the extra steps and the costs. And Cynthia and Carmen, I really thank you for joining us because you've been at this longer than I have, as in the beginning of last week. So it's helpful Bruce told me a lot, and Cynthia, he told me a fair amount about working with you as a role model. But just the little bits that have come out is super helpful. It's just like, I don't have to use my non-artistic skills to try and come up with a boring cover with text on it.
All you have to do is show up and then magic happens. And honestly, it has really been the highlight of my week, you know. And my mom would call me right before Bruce and right after because she'd want to know, what did he say? You know, so it has been a wonderful experience. And I will write another book because of Bruce. I did not consider myself a writer. I didn't think it was something that I would do. I wanted to do it for my husband. But it's been such an amazing experience. I will write another book. I don't know what it will be about, but I will continue this process. It's wonderful.
And I look forward to helping you with that.
Thank you.
Are you ready to tell people you're an author, like to think of yourself that way and have an author page?
I really think so. And that's surprising. I'm really modest and kind of quiet, but I think, yes, I've been trained by the best. So yes, I will say that I am an author.
And you are, and you're a wonderful author. So
Thank you.
Yes, you can say that, chest out. You are an author. Absolutely 100%.
And all of you will be as well.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Sure.
Thank you.
Cynthia, we have taken up so much of your time. Thank you so much for being here.
It was a pleasure meeting everyone.
Great to see you. And I'll see you Tuesday, same time. And we'll
Sounds great.
make sure we're rocking and rolling towards our mutual goal here. But thank you so much. I very much appreciate you being here with us today. And thanks for all of your kind words.
You